Hi, everybody, and welcome to the DogCo Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle Kline. I'm your host, and I'm also the founder of DogCo Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. I have a really special episode for us today because I am getting the chance to interview colleague, friend, Jordy, who is the founder of Critter, which is a new software on the scene in the pet care space. And he is going to let us pick his brain for this episode, which I'm really excited about. So Jordy, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be chatting.
So I thought maybe we could kick off with a little bit of how you and I know each other. And then I would love for you to take it from there to just introduce to the audience who you are, what you do, why you care about the pet care space. So Jordy and I got to know each other because he actually has a pet care company and enrolled in DogCo last summer. So I actually got to know him first as a client, which was cool. And then as we just got more connected, he had this software he was working on that we started kind of meeting about and talking about. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is really neat. And it kind of like changed the whole trajectory of why and how we connect. So Jordy, what brings you here today?
Yeah, I was kind of reflecting on that. I joke that I kind of came into the industry almost from the side door. I grew up terrified of dogs. I don't talk about that a lot, but I'm not one of those people who had a lifelong passion for animals and just always knew I wanted to work with them in some capacity. What actually brought me here, interesting enough, is technology, which is what it's more of I got here from the side entrance because eventually I did get over my fear of dogs, obviously. My wife, Jana, and I adopted our dog, Lucy, back in I think it was 2016. And a lot of my path into pet care, into dog walking, into software in this space, actually traces back to when we hired a dog walker ourselves for the first time. It was so funny. I remember he would come to our apartment, he would bring this pad of paper and leave it on our counter. And then every day he would handwrite notes about the walk that day. We'd get home from work and it would say great walk. Lucy barked at a squirrel today. And shout out to Leo. It was genuinely very funny. He did a great job. But at the same time, we would sit back and we would think about it. And we're like, man, this is a big dog walking company in Chicago. So a big city. We didn't get pictures. We didn't really know for real, what time did he get there? What time did he leave? There wasn't a super easy way to pay. If we had to change our schedule, there was not an easy way to do that. And so I think for us, we were just surprised by the technology experience. And then, but over time, we kind of saw that pattern repeated to our groomer, our trainer, our boarding facility, even our vet. And these were amazing service providers, but the technology was just, it was not good.
Yeah.
And so, my wife and I, we both come from tech backgrounds actually, but then during COVID, we started seriously thinking about actually building something together. And we just kept coming back to this idea that there was this opportunity in pet care to build something that felt modern and mobile and, I don't know, just easier, both for the pet owner, but also the business owners, which at the time, we certainly didn't know enough about yet. And so we started digging in, we started researching the industry, and a big part of that was actually just testing all of the existing software options. And in order to do that, we needed to be walking dogs. So we started walking dogs so that we could test it. And we had this idea that if we were going to build something for this, we should be our first users, we should be our best users, and we could take a more authentic approach to building the software and basically understand the challenges in a more genuine way. So eventually, we built what would become the first version of Critter. I mean, really that was for ourselves. And then we made it available to the industry. And that's kind of how we got here, and was super excited to join DogCo last year because we were really trying to figure out, it's hard to do a services business and a software business. I would just hear people talk about how DogCo helped them get out of the field, but grow. And that was I was if I'm going to figure out, can we do both? DogCo's the way to do it. Very happy to have met you.
I remember you and I started connecting a bit more intentionally around November because you emailed me and you were like, I've been working on something and I really wanted to get your thoughts on it. And it was right before I was going on a trip. So we had a bit of back and forth to get connected. Could you share a little bit about kind of what shaped up in last fall for you guys?
Yeah, no, that's a good point because I should give more context. Yeah, so, I think so we started our life in Critter as a scheduling tool. I mean, similar to the other ones in the industry, it was started as a very mobile first platform. I think actually like DogCo's not a small part of our journey to where we stand today, because I'd be
Hmm.
sitting in these meetings every Wednesday with companies that were much larger than mine and had bigger teams and really big goals for growing. And I was just over here like trying to figure out like, can we even do this? And I would sit there and listen, but I would also listen to like the challenges that people were having. And at the same time, we were really evaluating internally, like, does the industry need another scheduling platform? Like maybe, but we were trying to figure out, could Critter sustain itself as a scheduling tool? What would that look like? What would we need to change? Or was there another opportunity or gap? And so I'd sit there in my DogCo meetings and hear people talk about less about scheduling and a lot more about growth and the challenges they were facing, like how they think about marketing. And what came out of a lot of those conversations is we really dug into like, well, what are the challenges around like real CRM and marketing automation, and
Hmm.
what are the marketing tools that people are using? We started really digging into that. And that's where today, what Critter looks like today came from largely. When I approached it, I was like, I think this might be really interesting, particularly given DogCo's focus on growth and team-based companies. And so today, Critter is this software platform that's designed to help you grow your pet care business. Like, at its core is a really rich CRM, and it ties directly into your booking data, which I think if I recall our first discussion, I think that was one of the things that you were like, you kind of paused and were like, wait, what do you mean it ties into your data? How does that work? So we take your data and we build tools on top of it for what we consider best in class automation, because one of our core philosophies is like good automation requires good data. But our industry doesn't have like the best history with making data available. So
Hmm.
we made the data available. We got creative. We got the data from your scheduling tools, and then we layered tools on top of it for things like marketing campaigns, upsell and cross-sell, retention and re-engagement, lead gen, referrals, meet and greet schedule, like all these different things that are all automated based on your client level data, your booking and service level data, and you can get really creative with how you approach it. So I think that's sort of the core of it. Like the way we think about Critter is scheduling tools are designed for operational efficiency. They take
Hmm.
a business process, and maybe previously it was pen and paper or maybe an email and text, and then they digitize them and they streamline them so that you get hours back in the day. And that makes your
Hmm.
life running a business more manageable, and it's super powerful. Critter's a little different. We still want to give you time back in your day so that you can focus on a lot of different things all at once, but we're really focused on client engagement and growing your bottom line, not just how do we make your process more efficient. So how do you
Hmm.
attract and track new clients? How do you drive more revenue from your existing clients? And then how do you keep clients engaged with really the right communication at the right time based off of their behavior engaging your business? And those are the questions we think a lot about. It's a very relationship-based business ultimately, and we think of Critter as a relationship nurturing platform.
If you're ready to take your pet care business to the next level, then I want you in the room at the DogCo Business Summit, October 2nd through the 4th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We have brought together the very best speakers we could possibly find, and we are getting the best companies in the room to help give you the path to grow and scale your pet care business. Go to dogcosummit.com to learn more. I know I've shared this with you, but for the broader audience, when Jordy was first emailing me in November, this was right after the DogCo Summit, and I don't know why the summit was the inflection point for this, but I was just getting pitched multiple times a week from companies asking
Yeah.
me to look at software. So I had categorized all requests into this one bucket of just like a little bit of if I have to.
Yeah.
Because as I've shared with you, but maybe not the audience, I don't want to own a software company. Like software, I'm just like, I want someone else to build something amazing. But that has just never been something I really want to get deeply involved in. But you were a client. So I was like, I'm going to meet with Jordy. And I remember apologizing to you on the call because the second I understood what you had done, I actually remember texting my friend Dave Peterson, who's
Yep.
just a big marketing brain in the
Yep.
industry as well, under the table and was like, you need to talk to Jordy because this is pretty freaking cool. So thank you for your tenacity because that was kind of a funny moment in time for me.
You know what? I have learned since, like, you're a very busy person, you somehow get it all done, but I did not take any offense. And also, like, I do understand that, like, yeah, like, a lot of people reaching out to you about software when it's, like, not really your thing is, yeah, that's unique. So,
But I'm
no, I
so
appreciate it.
glad
Yeah.
because I do think Critter is approaching a really needed angle in the marketplace of relationally driven marketing. Our industry is just so unique. And so the ability to tailor a marketing solution you use, like the ability to tailor something to client behavior specifically, is just an unbeatable solution. And so I love the thread that y'all initially pulled to try and solve.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I think like when we would talk to people and hear like a lot of it was like, well, how do you get your data from one place to another? And the reality was it was duplicate entry. And then it was like, okay, but then when you have data in your CRM or your email marketing tool or whatever, it was like, well, how do you tailor messages? And a lot of the questions was like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, how would you go about differentiating what message you send to like your pet sitting clients versus your walking clients, or your walking clients versus your cat care clients, or whatever. And a lot of times most people didn't have a good answer to that because they weren't doing that, or it was a very, very manual. Either they had to like label everybody individually themselves, or really label who was getting an email. And it was just a really, I think, frustrating process for most. And when we showed people like, hey, we actually automatically do that stuff for you. That's one of the big things is as your data comes in, we're labeling it. We're actually automating that whole process. It leads to like an aha moment for a lot of people, like, oh, I can target this really specific zip code and only the dog owners in there. And I could do that in like 2 clicks, like that kind of thing. And I appreciate that because, yeah, we do hope to be a little bit of a different perspective on it.
I love it. What are the most interesting things you see happening in the industry right now?
That's a
Just start with an easy one.
No, it is a good question. Look, I'm going to answer this from a technology space because
Yeah.
like not really just Critter, like just broadly technology, because that's what I don't feel as qualified to talk about some of the more like process oriented things. But I think overall, I think it's an exciting time to be thinking about technology in this world. There's this concept of the technology adoption curve, which like you've maybe heard of. And it's like the earliest people to use tech are called like innovators. Then there's a slightly larger bucket of people called early adopters. And then there's like the early majority where more and more of the industry start using tech over time, and so on until, everybody is widely adopting technology in an industry. And I think what's cool is in pet care broadly, and I want to say particularly so in home, like walking and sitting businesses, we are still really, really on the early end of that curve. Which in a lot of ways is actually pretty surprising. Like I think for an industry of this size and frankly, this complexity from an operational standpoint, like I think a lot of people who are not in the industry do not understand how complex of like a logistics and
Truly.
like business, like this industry actually is. And actually, I would say business owners in this space are very sophisticated when it comes to like process and logistics and organization and just kind of SOPs. I would say the technology landscape is pretty, for an industry of that status, the technology landscape is pretty underdeveloped. And it's behind where other kind of similar service-based industries are. I'm always surprised, like if you see like the technology that's available to HVAC companies or salons or landscaping businesses or health and wealth, like all of these different areas. Like in those spaces, there are just standard features that are almost taken for granted. They're just there. But in pet, they don't even exist. Like not even like light forms of them. And I think what's fun and what's interesting about this space is like, I don't think that will continue to be true too far into the future. And I think that's in part because like over the last decade plus, the industry has undergone a pretty big transformation. When I talk to people about what we do at Critter, like a lot of times they're blown away. They're not even aware that there are these thriving 6-7-figure businesses with teams of 5, 10, 25, 50 dog walkers that are really sophisticated, complex, mature businesses that are really ambitious. And so I think as that becomes better understood and as that continues to be the case and the growth there continues, I think we'll start to see technology catching up. So when I look around, like when I look at the broader landscape today and like what's interesting, I'm thinking a lot about like what is AI going to look like here?
Mm,
Because I don't think that's going to be the same for every industry, and so I think there will be like a pet specific version of AI here. How long does it take AI to be widely adopted? I think is an interesting question and a nuanced one along similar lines as the barriers to entry for technology companies come down as it gets easier to build software. Like it'll be interesting to see like how fragmented the technology landscape becomes. Do we see a lot of point solutions, meaning distinct companies providing a discrete set of functionality for like this one niche area?
mm,
Or will it kind of centralize with big platforms? And like there will be like one or maybe two big companies that are building a more comprehensive suite of solutions. And like, I think it'll be really interesting to see some of that dynamic play out over time. And that's what I spend a lot of time thinking about.
yeah. I mean, I haven't been in the industry as long as some of my clients, but I've now been in the industry for about a decade overall between my pet care company and DogCo. And I'm curious if you feel this has happened on your end. I feel like there has been a shift that has happened in business owners in our industry where they've gone from, not all, of course, but many have gone from what I would say almost categorized as technology resistant to technology curious. Like, even if they
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
adopting it, I feel like I've seen that transition.
I certainly think that transition is still happening. I think we're getting there.
Mm,
And I think it's a great thing. Like I think it's going to be really meaningful to continue like propelling the industry forward and enabling larger and larger businesses. And I do see that trend. I think there's like this interesting thing where like I think historically, and like I haven't been in the industry that long, so there are people who certainly can speak better to what it was like 20, 30 years ago. From the research I've done, the people I talk to, because I meet a lot of businesses in this space, it was a almost entirely solo or very small team industry at one point. I don't think that ambition was the same back then as it is today. I don't think the opportunity to do that. And I think that's why you see some of the technology lagging is because I think technology follows opportunity, and so if people weren't looking to grow for a long time, then like there wasn't necessarily the same need to have tools designed for it. And I think it's really important to call out like the tools that work really well for a solo business are not always and usually are not the same as the tools that are going to work for a business that has a small team, which is not the same as one that has like a medium-sized team and not the same for like what you might call like an enterprise company, like the
yeah.
largest company in the space. And so I think what happened was you see a lot of tools that got developed early 2000s, 2010s, like that area that are really powerful, really good, but they were designed for a time that doesn't quite match today's scale and
Hmm.
ambition and goals. And I think that's what we're like seeing evolve. And I think as more businesses do exactly what you just called out, which is going from being resistance, a fair word, I think, to curious about it. I think there's two big pieces there. I think number one, I think that we talked about this. It's a relationship business. And I think a lot of people
Hmm.
think technology and relationship are at odds with one another.
Mm,
And, if that's the case, then I can't ship off communication to a software. Like I can't but there is a reality as you scale. Like, I talked to a lot of people about this, that the idea that like when you were a solo operator, you knew every single one of your clients. You
yep.
knew what their journey with you was. You knew if they were upset with you because they probably just told you, like you were friends. Like, and I think as you scale, like the second you hire and you start maybe not being at every meet and greet, and you're definitely not the one doing every walk, and you grow your team, like the ability to have that sort of intimate knowledge of all of your client base just goes out the door. And so you
Yeah.
need to introduce technology. It's not like a nice to have, it becomes imperative. And I think more and more businesses are seeing that. I think the other thing I'll say is I think historically this industry has viewed, and I do understand why, I think this industry has viewed software as an expense rather
Mm,
than like a lever for growth. And
ooh,
I
yeah.
think that's an important mind shift, a mindset shift that should continue to happen, because I don't want to be like cliche, but like you do have to spend money in order to grow your business and scale. And there is an ROI on technology, but I think there's a lot of dynamics that made it hard to feel that, particularly given the relationship driven nature of everything. So I think as tools get better, you're going to continue to see the resistance kind of go away.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I've seen that shifting happening as well of I think more and more people in our industry just understanding more deeply investment to return.
Yes.
And it's difficult because it's like, there's I think a very human nature if I want to see the proof in the pudding before I'm willing to leverage resources. But at the same time, it's like we have to be willing to test and leverage forward. Are there any areas in our industry that you think we are broadly at risk of over automation?
That's an interesting question too. I think about this in a couple different ways. I said this, like one of our core philosophies, like as we're building critters, like good automation requires good data. Like the implication there is that there are varying degrees of quality when it comes to automation. And so
Mm,
I think like one thing that is like absolutely worth calling out is that I believe even as a company that like thinks all about automation and the different things that we can automate, like there is always going to be a role for like the human in it. Like it should be a
yeah.
mix. It should never be 100%. I don't think this is an industry that you can automate 100% or even 90 or 80%. Like I don't think you can or should do that because I don't think that even as I talk about relationships being able to be supported by software and by automation, which I do think is true, I think a relationship that is 100% automated is maybe not the most genuine relationship. I do think that like human connection matters. I think having conversations matter. I think getting to know your clients, and that's not just you, but it's also your staff. Like I think that matters. I personally believe as somebody who like I write a lot and I like writing and I don't personally use AI tools to generate content at this time,
Hmm.
in part because I like it, right? I like doing it
Yeah.
myself, and I think it captures my thoughts more specifically in that way. No shade to anybody who does use it for that purpose. Like, you should use it in the way that best suits you. I think that the risk in over automation really comes down to, okay, I'm trying to scale my business. And in order to do that, I'm going to replace myself in every link of the chain. Like, I would not like an example is, and I don't, nobody's using Critter for this. Nobody's using any tool that I am aware of for this. But for example, like the meet and greet should never be automated. You might say, well, how would that even happen? But there are tools that automate interviews, for
Yeah.
hiring. You could
Yeah.
certainly have an asynchronous meet and greet where the questions get asked and they're interacting with like an AI person on screen and you have a camera that's looking at the dog and assessing it. Like I can absolutely see somebody developing that. That will not be Critter. That will not be me
Gotta say,
because
someone is starting that the second, right?
somebody is
This,
doing yeah.
yes.
Right. I would understand the appeal for a certain business to like try and do that because it saves time. And meet and greets are, they're not even a client yet, so I
Yeah.
get it. But I think at the same time, like there are just important human instincts around dogs, around
Mm,
and cats and any animal, right? And around like picking up on people's like your connection to your clients. Like I think it's important that like when you have the privilege to do so, that you choose clients that fit you and are good for
hmm.
you and are positive influence on your business. And I think that is best done with a human conversation. So that is not something that I think is happening today, but like I could see a world where that technology exists. I just don't know that we need to go in that direction. So I think like this summary is, I think the human relationship still really, really matters. I think it's still really important. And I think software can do a lot to support you in building relationships, but it shouldn't be a replacement for actual human connection.
I agree. You and I are very aligned on that. Though I do think somebody probably will build an asynchronous
Oh my
meet and
God,
greet
they
tool after
will.
this episode.
They will. I know
They'll
it.
be like, interesting. Though my brain was like, okay, well, if they did, I could see Mira. Maybe we do a phone call first and then blah, blah. I don't know. But I like the kind of ethos inside of that of like using automation, or at least that's what I took from what you were saying, using automation to basically take all of the administrative stuff off of your plate that keeps you from getting to focus as intentionally on the relationship.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the other thing I'll call out is something that I like think about sometimes, but I don't know that I have like a concrete perspective on is just like tools like ChatGPT and Claude are, I mean, they're incredible. It's also very early
Mm-hmm.
in that world. how do I put this? Like, I'm not an AI like fanboy. I'm not an apologist for it. Like, I think I have a pretty nuanced take on AI, and
Yeah.
I don't consider myself to be like an innovator in that space or an early adopter. Like, when we started Critter, AI was not what it is today. And so it wasn't really part of the vision at the time. And like, I've grown to better understand parts of the AI landscape and think about the different ways you can use it. I think tools like that, like the interesting thing that I think about, it's early, they're still improving and they still get things wrong. And so I think like there's also a risk when you think about automation, you specifically think about AI, because not all automation is AI, right? The big thing that comes to mind for me, and I don't know if this is like a controversial take or not, using generic or horizontal tools like a chat or Claude, like for very nuanced pet care specific things can pose a risk. I'm not saying it does, but what I mean is like the tools are not overhyped because I do think they're incredible and like what they help. And I think they can do a lot of automation that is incredible for businesses that does not require a pet care lens. But I also think
Mm-hmm.
there are cases where you want something that has like a little more specific training and education and maybe unique data on pet care specifically. So what I'm really talking about is like when we talk to businesses, like there's a lot of people who are spending time daily or weekly at least, manually exporting data from their scheduling software. And maybe they don't export, but maybe they're like daisy chaining a bunch of tools together using Zaps or whatever, to get data in and out of systems. They're going to do some sort of import into Chat or Claude, and they're going to ask a bunch of questions or build a reporting or, a variety of use cases. And I think that's great. I genuinely think that's fine. But I think where it should go over time, there's this sub area of AI called vertical AI, which
Hmm.
is really AI models and tooling that is designed specifically for like one interest, like one industry or one purpose. So
Hmm.
you need unique and frequently proprietary data to do it. But the idea is the general business world is not a monolith. Like individual industries have a ton of nuance and expertise that is wrapped up in people and data sources that are not just like publicly available. But if you have access to the right data, you can apply a very specific type of training and lens to an AI model so that it actually has a perspective that is unique and tailored to your industry. And so I think like that's something that I'm thinking a lot about, and we think a lot about. Like Critter, we have an in-app agent called Togo, which out of the box, it's trained on your client data, it's trained on your scheduled data, on marketing performance data, on specific industry practices and voices and SOPs and more. There's no like work to get the manual, no manual work to get data in. If you're using Critter, you just have this out of the box, and it applies a very specific pet care industry lens to like how you interact with an AI agent and what it does for you within our software and more broadly, particularly around like data analysis and like business performance and recommendations and things like that. So I don't know if that's like a risk. I think it's more just like it's early, and if you're using horizontal tools, there's a lot of really good things it can do, but I think that there's also a risk that you start using horizontal tools that are not trained for a subject
Hmm.
for purposes that really should require that training. And so we think a lot about that and kind of where we want to take our tool set over time.
I have one more question, and then I'd love to talk a little bit about Critter and the DogCo Business Summit and
Yes.
few future things. So, if someone was interested in Critter specifically, I'm interested in something you said about the investment to return because I think it has to make sense for people. And sometimes they need like a quick way to validate that's going to work for me. And this could be a broader question on strategy, but
Yeah.
what tends to be that kind of 80/20 low hanging fruit that you see a company has available to them that Critter will solve because I know
Yeah.
that's what you're focused on, but what tend to be those 80/20 returns very quickly?
So like one of like the lowest hanging like thing that, again, going back to like it's a relationship driven business, I think like one of the primary sources of new leads tends to be referrals. And so we
Hmm.
think a lot about like, well, how do you like what does your referral program look like? How do you structure it? Like what rewards are you giving? Are you giving people incentive? Like I believe you should. Like I think you should incentivize your client base to share your business widely, and that happens like amongst like family and friends and neighbors and things like that. But it also happens in like your local Facebook groups where people are saying like, hey, who do you guys use for dog walking? Or I'm going on vacation. I need somebody, who do you recommend? And, I think you want it to be as frictionless as possible. Not only from like the perspective of like making it really easy for your clients to share about you, but also for the new lead to come in and access you and reach you and, and understand who you are. And so this is one of those things. And like, I think doing that manually can be done. It just takes
Hmm.
a lot of time. It's hard to track like what leads came from who, and did I apply the credit to their account? And did I like, and so like we have a referral tool, for example, that automates the whole process. Like your client gets a unique link and they share that link and that form, and the new lead comes into your system and is tracked back, and it works really smoothly. And like, that's one of those things where there does need to be an ROI on the tool sets you're using and the investments you're making on marketing. So that's like, when I think of like low hanging fruit, I think like
Yeah.
making it really easy to share about your business is such an easy, quick thing to do. I think what
Yeah.
is the gap for a lot of people on ROI is like, how do you measure ROI? Like, how do you track? Because it's like, okay, well, I did a drip email campaign. How do I know if it worked? That's a hard question to answer. It's something that like
Hmm.
a lot of marketing tools try to answer. And like, I'll tell you in Critter, like the way we tackle that is we actually track ROI for you. We monitor booking behaviors. Like, let's say you were trying to upsell somebody on, they're a daily dog walking client, but they always do your 30-minute walk. But adventure walks are a service you offer, and that's a higher ROI service for you. So you want to upsell people to that. And you do a campaign specifically designed to target your daily dog walking clients who are 30-minute walkers and sell them on an adventure walk. The question is, how do you track what happened? And for us, so we monitor the booking behavior of everybody who we say, this person received the email, they opened it, they clicked a link. And then actually we see later that, 2 weeks later, they actually booked an adventure walk. And then 2 weeks after that, they booked another. And then that became a recurring behavior. And so we can actually track the dollar value of the campaign you sent. And I think that's a big gap for people and something to be thinking about. Even outside of Critters, like measuring the ROI is a pretty big thing, and being thoughtful about that. So the truth is, I think in our space, I think most businesses are not doing a lot on a true marketing site. And so I think there's a
Hmm.
lot of like green space ahead where people can just start doing like easy, whether it's social media, whether it's email campaigns of like local events and collecting lists and then nurturing those relationships. Like, I think there's a lot of things you can do. They take time. They take
Hmm.
effort. Sometimes they require a financial investment. And so I think having the tools in place to manage those, automate what you can, and then track the ROI on them is really, really important.
I agree. I think there's a lot. I'm excited specifically about this part for our industry for the next several years. We have done so much work as an industry on how to operationalize on all of the logistics and the
Yes.
people and the scheduling and all of those things. But I agree. I think the marketing, the strategic, like sales, all of that, there's a lot of opportunity ahead.
I think for a lot of people, it's just like, because I wonder, like, I don't know, for you, like DogCo, like what percentage of people who come to you, like, are still in the field? I'm guessing a decent percentage of one of their goals is to not be. But I think when you're still in the field in particular, it's really hard to be thinking about all the other stuff, And
Yeah.
so I think that's the big part of why the industry is in its current thing. I don't think it's like for lack of interest or lack of sophistication. I mean, I meet really, really smart business people every single day who have a desire to grow and do more. And, it's just giving themselves the time and space to learn, to test tools, and then to go and execute. So I think it's happening more and more, and we're excited about that.
It's an exciting time. I think this is a good time to announce that Critter is going to be the premium sponsor for the DogCo Business Summit. So first, thank you. That's
Of course, we're
wonderful.
very excited. Yes.
So I'd love to know a little bit about, why the DogCo Summit, what you guys are excited about, and what you hope to get out of the weekend, because you'll be there in person.
Yes, we'll be there in person. I'm super excited. For us, it's connection. Like we did a Chicago area DogCo meetup. There were all these people there that I've met through Zoom and through, everything. But it was like being in person felt so good. And so we're so excited to be able to be in person, meet like these incredible business people who like we know, but we don't know, and really build the relationships. And I think, for us, when we think about DogCo, I am like continually amazed by the quality of the businesses, the size of the
Mhm.
businesses, the goals of the businesses. Like, it blows me away every day. And like, I'm in awe often of like what people are doing and how creative people are. think of it as an opportunity for us to learn. Like, we're evolving our product and we're building new things and we're figuring out like what are the gaps that exist in this space and what do people actually want, which is a question that sometimes software companies ignore, I think, a little bit. And so we're just excited to like be there in person, meet as many businesses as we can, build relationships and like learn. It's such a valuable opportunity for us. And also just like to share Critter with people. I genuinely believe this offer will be impactful for people. Like we believe that and we want it to be, and we care a lot about it not just being a software that you pay for but don't use.
Yeah.
We want it to be something that is genuinely driving growth for your business. So we're excited to get that in front of people, and I think I couldn't think of a better opportunity than the summit to do it. So we're super excited. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, mutually, it's going to be a really special weekend. If people would like to learn about Critter prior to then, where can they go?
Yes, so you can go to www.critter.pet. That's just our general website. You can also email me. I'm very responsive, jordy@critter.pet. We're always happy to do demos we try to be really hands-on with a lot of the education part. We have a lot of big goals also for like this summer, just like a lot of education around marketing and, just like doing webinars and training sessions and things like that, that we hope to turn into like public events. So more to come on that. But yeah, I think our website and emailing me direct is a good place to start.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, I'll make sure that information is also in the show notes. Thank you so much, Jordy. Any parting thoughts for the audience?
I would just say the industry is at such a good place. I'm so excited. Like, I think business owners, and I suspect there's a heavy overlap of people who listen to a podcast like this. You all are impressive, and like you should lean into that and have big goals and invest in yourselves and just keep growing. Because I said this like 5 times now, but like I am blown away and I love being part of this industry and getting to be a very small slice of it and just meet people. I think be proud of what the industry is doing today and where it's going. And because I think sometimes maybe people don't realize that enough. So I just leave it with that.
I fully agree. It's a pretty special place to be. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you got as much value out of this as I know that I did. And definitely check out Critter, head to Jordy's website, or get connected with him. Thanks, everyone. Catch you later.